Hey, welcome to the Elle Russ Show. My name is Elle Russ, and I am a #1 best-selling author and master coach. My intention is to inspire, educate, and motivate you with weekly content featuring amazing guests and solo episodes. Visit my website, elleruss.com, to learn more about me, my courses, free masterclasses, partner discounts, and much more. Enjoy the show. Hey, Alex, welcome to the show. Or should I say, I've interviewed before on the old show. So welcome to my new show.
Thanks for having me. I love, the fact that you will interview me twice is flattering, and I feel honored.
We have so much to talk about. Everyone listening, Alex has there's going to be a great story. He did a contest basically to find the love of his life. It worked out. He's getting married. We're going to talk about that, which is just hilarious and awesome. When I saw you were doing it, oh my gosh. All right. So, and then we're also going to talk about Alex's coaching. He's a success coach. He also has a book coming out soon as well. He is really focused on men's retreats, and we're going to talk about masculinity and all of the things surrounding that concept. So before we jump into some serious stuff, what the hell? Why did you came up with a contest to find your wife? What? Love it. Love it. I want to hear all about it. What the fuck? Where were you? I just want to hear the inception. Where were you when you're like, maybe I should just I want to know. Tell us. Too
many tequila shots in a bar in Santa Barbara with my cousin. That's where the inception actually happened.
All right. Tell us about that.
So, it's so great. So first, I just have to say, I had great relationships. I had so much fun dating. And then I think a lot of single people, we get to a place where we're just I'm over it. Right. I don't know about you. Have you ever felt like that?
Oh, you're completely there. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. It's I just am over this game already. I want to find my person or whatever. And I was sitting with my cousin in a bar in Santa Barbara, and we were talking about types for whatever reason. She's single also. And she made a comment to me. I made a comment that I don't have a type. And she looked at me like she was going to slap me. And she was like, "Oh, you have a type." And I was like, "Please, what do you see?" And she goes, "It's not looks. Most people, their types are looks or a job." Or she goes, "Your type is a personality thing." And I was like, "Oh," and she broke it down in a way that I couldn't unhear or unsee. That it was oh my God, I'm the problem. I'm the reason I keep having my relationships go the same way every time.
What was that type? What was the personality type that hit you in the face there? Because I think everyone listening knew that, right? When she says, "Oh no, you have a type," it's not going to be a positive type.
So if you line up, and it's not 100%, right? We don't all 100% exclusively date our type, but if you line up all the women across all the time, and this is my cousin, so she's seen all of it. You would see beautiful, confident, powerful, successful women. They have good jobs, they make good money, they do something interesting always. So it would be I'm going to make this up so I don't put anyone on the spot. It would be they are the top business lawyer in all of California, and they also happen to be a hip hop dancer, then travel the world performing. It was some weird,
amazing. I want to date that person, and I'm not even a lesbian. So that's amazing.
Exactly. Right. It would be they always had these two things that didn't really line up, and they were incredible at both of them. They played that, and they seemed, and they were beautiful and fun and whatever. But then under the surface, there was a lot of undealt with trauma and emotional issues that their amazing life was a cover up for. And so you'd meet them, they're incredible. And then once you got into the relationship, I was the guy who was going to kind of fix them or save them or help them, which was the thing about both of us, right? I got a lot from them being these incredible women that I could put on a pedestal. That made me feel good about myself. And then when I got to be the white knight, I felt good about myself. But at the end of the day, you can't fix someone else's problems, right? I can't actually save them. I can't actually heal them. And so it was always bound to implode. And when I even looked at this further for myself, it was oh, that's a really good strategy to never have to get really committed. right? Like it keeps me from ever having to like actually get married or like be fully in with somebody if I keep picking people that it will always implode.
Yep.
And that, and
And
it,
or the other thing too is I was talking to a friend about this because I would have this too, where that like I guess they would call it like the Seinfeld syndrome, where I don't know if anyone's watched the show, he always would like discount someone like they had their two hands were too big.
oh
They always
yeah,
like find some reason, right? But
yep.
when you have a bad picker and then your expectations meet you, which is like, oh, this is not going to work out or whatever, then it's just like, oh, there goes another one. See, I told you, and this is why, and can't find anybody. And then it just becomes a story until, like you said, you realize you're the common denominator. I want to just
Uh-huh.
quickly interject if you haven't interviewed already, not to put you on the spot, but one of the most amazing interviews ever, and people in this world is Tanya Dyer, and she's like an alpha woman coach, and so all the things you're saying, all the women you're describing, are alphas like me. They are
Yep.
like me,
Yep.
and alphas are wonderful, but a lot of them have deep abandonment wounds and
Hmm.
other things going on. And that's kind of what you're talking about. So if you're out there and you are alpha female and you're like, wait, he's describing me, then why didn't it work out? Why am I not awesome? It's not that. It's that you're maybe an uncoached alpha. And so maybe go over to Tanya Dyer's work on that to try to resolve the stuff so that you don't run
Hmm.
into these things. So I just wanted to interject. Keep going.
And remember, it wasn't about them, right? It was about our
No,
dynamic, right? They hadn't healed their stuff and I hadn't healed mine. So we were both filling
blame
up
on both sides. Yes.
exactly, right? There's nothing wrong with these women. They were
Of course.
incredible in so many ways. Um, and so this all comes out. I'm like, oh my God, I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh man, my picker, I'm picking from attraction and lust and status and what makes me feel good, not from what I'm committed to, the life I'm committed to having, the partnership I'm committed to. And jokingly, I said to my cousin, maybe you should pick who I date since you see this. And she kind of laughed, right? And we're a couple drinks in. And we quickly decided this was actually a great idea. And so we created like a, dating app account on her phone, pretending to be me, that she would essentially connect with women, tell them that she was my cousin. So we weren't lying to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And then explain the thing and be like, I'm setting him up. Well, that lasted less than 24 hours because the app kicked us off. Somebody reported us like right away. And so I don't know why I threw this idea on Facebook. I just threw it up on Facebook. A few of my other friends were like, we want to play. We want to help like decide. These are very like conscious friends, very aware. They love me. They want me to win. These are not my like guy buddies who are just going to be like, who's the hottest one? Let's pick her. And right, I did not ask them for help.
Good call.
Yeah. And we threw it up on Facebook and it went viral. And within a week, it was like thousands and thousands and thousands of people had seen this. Women like somebody like you who knew me was like, hey, this is a good guy. He's looking for a woman. Well, and it actually, it expanded to, I had tickets to go to a wedding in Tulum that months later.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? The winner of this kind of my friend's pick contest gets to go on a free trip with me to Tulum for 2 weeks. And I threw this online and women like someone like you who knew me would share it within their community. Be like, I know this guy. He's not going to murder you. He's actually he's like surrendering himself to love. And next thing I knew was I was on the news. I was doing podcasts and over 100 women applied to this trip with me to Tulum. And my friends had interviews. The women filled out applications. The women who made it further along got to ask their friends to interview me, right? So they got input from their friends. We wanted to keep it like really fair. And next thing you knew, we had like finalists and we had dates. So it was very much like a reality show, except it wasn't.
How many dates did you go on from it?
So I only at the very end, we had like our final 6 and we started planning dates with all 6, like one date with each one. And then the committee would choose based on like what I shared with them. And when it got real, as in things normally do, people started dropping out, right? All of a sudden it was like, wait, oh my God, I might like actually win this, or I might have to go on a date with this guy. And all of a sudden we were down to our final 3 or 4. And then, I ended up going on, we had 3 dates lined up. One woman dropped out the day of her date. I don't think you like me that much. So I think I'm going to cancel our date. It's like, well, that's interesting. We hadn't even gone on our date yet. Right? Like,
you went through all of this, bitch, and you got to this point, and now you're getting like, I don't know. That's kind of funny, right? It's like, oh, okay.
It probably says a lot about how her dating patterns go, right?
That's right. But also good that you did. Yep.
Totally. Yep. So I went on 2 dates in 2 days. luckily those two women who were the finalists both lived in LA. They drove down to Laguna. I drove up to Laguna, went on 2 dates in 2 days. It was so clear who the right match for me was. Like, one was just far and away, nothing bad about the other one. The one was just far and away a better complement to me and what I want and what I'm committed to. And my friends all chose her, and we got to date like her in LA, me in San Diego remotely, and kind of with some trips for about 6 weeks. And then we flew to Tulum for 2 weeks together, and felt like, I mean, I knew I was in love with her while we were in Tulum. I would have married her in Tulum. She was like,
you had videos from Tulum like they're on your Instagram.
Yep. She was a hard no to getting tattoos and getting married. And about 3 or 4 months after we came back from the wedding, she moved down to San Diego, moved in with me, and roughly a year-ish after the whole contest started, I proposed. And as of the moment we are recording this, her and I are getting married in 19 days back in Tulum.
Okay, so wait, I think by the time this comes out, you will have already been married for like a month or something. But that is, first of all, congratulations. And what is her name?
Her name is Evan Rose.
Amazing. Great name. Evan being first name, Rose being last name, or just Evan Rose, one word?
It's just like what she goes. I mean, it's her first and her middle name, but it's like what she goes by. She's actually a dating coach and self-worthy coach for women, self-worth coach for women. Which was a coin. Like, we weren't looking for that, right? We weren't looking for someone who does this work, but it just happened to be, and it's really cool because you can see 5 years ago, her and I never could have made it work. She wasn't my type. She wasn't what I would go for. I wasn't hers. But like our doing the work, like our working on ourselves, improving ourselves, got us to this place where we're like, oh, we are so clearly each other's people. And we so clearly bring out the best in each other. And we so clearly challenge each other to be the people that we most want to be in our life.
Yeah. When you find the right person, whatever your thing is that you know that you have become aware of, that you need to be better at, is then if you find the perfect person for you, then that person helps you, keeps you in check with that shit. I have personal experience with that.
Mm-hmm. If you're willing, right? If you're willing to play that game.
That's right. And so you can come across yourself in the most positive way. It's a wonderful thing. And that's really also too, when you know you're with the right person, when those, I don't want to call them challenges, right? They're just like things that keep you in check, in vibe with yourself, that you, because like, and because you're a master coach and you realize this, and everyone probably listening does, which is, if you don't fucking meet whatever challenge it is, you don't keep speaking up, you don't defend yourself against a bully, you can move to a different country. It's going to happen there. Yeah, it's going to happen. You can exit a relationship and go, whatever, and chalk it up to whatever. You're going to find the same problems as you found, as I found. Thank God we did the self-development enough to have you respond well to your cousin who was like, motherfucker, you do have a type. And let me tell you something. And you were like, oh shit, I do. My cousin kicked my ass years ago when I had this realization. This was like over 10 years ago. And I was having another lame thing with a ending of a relationship. And she goes, she's really, really no bullshit. And she goes, what you're going through here, like, what is this garbage? This doesn't happen to me. It doesn't really happen to my friends. So like, why you? And that was a smack in the face that turned my picker around. So would love to hear your thoughts on that. But this is just, I wanted to share my experience that it is wonderful when you find someone who then is the helper of growth, not the annoyance or the toxicity of the other.
I think the thing that most of us think that we want, it's like we want passion. We want it to feel easy. We want it to be fun. We have these ideas of what we want. And I think when we find the person that I don't think there's one person. When we find the person that we choose is kind of the right person for us, it's a different kind of easy, right? Because it's easier to not work on yourself and drink and watch sports. It's easier to just have a really fun relationship where you don't actually get into anything deep. But when you're with, I think, the right person, the challenges that you face, it's kind of like you want to face them, right? Instead of like walking out of the room because of a fight, there's that voice in your head that's like, I actually know we need to have this fight. We need to have this disagreement because on the other side of it, there's more intimacy and more connection. That I think is the difference. Whereas when you're like, screw this person, I don't actually want to deal with this with them. Mm-hmm. That's a problem. But I think we also have to get to the place where we realize that the challenges we face are usually the things blocking us from our next level.
So singing my language here, right, on all this stuff. This is so, I hope everyone is really hearing this. Why don't you do this? Give us a actual real world personal life example of what you just said and how that would kind of happen. And you know what I mean? Like how that manifests itself. I know for me, like, you catch the thought in your head and then there's that moment of like, I got to address this, or how am I going to, like, you know what I mean? You have the thing of like, I can't just run away from this motherfucker. And I want to run away. I want to run. But the thing is that I'm kind of a runner or a avoidance of vulnerability person with that previous story. So like an alcoholic who can't have a drink, I can't not address these moments when vulnerability feels scary and I want to run. So in those moments, I have to like talk myself going, hey man, this is your old shit right here. And you gotta, So give us a couple of like real life examples when you came across this in this relationship in that positive way we're talking about of growth.
Well, here's, I think, one of the most common ones that there's two that are really similar. One is when we think we love someone or when we know we love someone, most of us often don't want to say it until we're pretty sure the other person is going to say it back. Right? We do not.
Great example.
Right? We do not want to be rejected. We do not want to not hear it back. But
my story too, been there.
How, and I've even had men say to me specifically, nah, man, you like can't put yourself out there like that. You let a woman know that she has all that power and she's just going to like run all over you. And I'm like, you've never had more power you've never had more power in your life until the moment you spoke your truth.
And when you're be okay with vulnerability. Yeah.
Yeah. When you're like, I'm not going to tell this woman how I feel about her. I'm not going to tell this man or whatever, because you're literally running scared. You are taking action based on fear. And so what makes you more weak than taking action based on fear? So to me, it's like, hey, you don't tell someone you love them so you can hear I love you back. That's not why you tell them. You tell someone you love them because you have a truth that you want to let out and make known and make real. And that requires strength and bravery and courage. And if the person doesn't say it back, well, that's actually okay. It doesn't mean they're not going to love you or that they don't love you. It could mean that, but it also could mean that, hey, two trains on two different tracks don't run at the same speed. They might be headed to the same place. They might just get there at different times.
Yeah. And then if they don't say it, then that's okay. You take the pride in yourself for speaking your truth. And this was a thing that I had many years ago. And my coach gave me this advice. Like I had a breakup and I was like, oh my God. And my problem was I was not vulnerable. And I was waiting for him to say, I love you, because I was like, no, I'm not going to say, completely this example, like 100%. And, so then, after this was all over and I'm like crying to my coach about it, and he's like, look, you need to be more vulnerable. And I'm like, how? He's like, well, doing exactly what we said. Like, you tell the person regardless. Yep. And it's okay whether or not, it doesn't matter. You've said it. And it is a thing that comes up often in relationships like we're talking about, where they get serious and you're moving in this direction, and then there's this moment, and if people are stuck there, there's going to be a issue that then you said, and you're right, makes it more intimate and wonderful later, but usually there's a blow up in this moment in the relationship of some kind. Someone's trying to sabotage or whatever, and then someone's going to be like, oh fuck, I'm in love with you, and then like, I love you too, wait, and that's how sometimes it goes.
The thing is, at the end of the day, don't you want to die or end your life or end relationships, whatever, knowing that you said what was true for you, that you didn't like leave it on, right? It's like an athlete. I know you're an athlete. Like, we don't want to leave anything on the table. When you're playing a game or a sport, you want to know that you gave it your best shot and that you don't have regrets, that like, I spoke my truth. I said my thing, and it wasn't for manipulation or anything. It was simply because it was true for me. And when I speak my truth, I'm interacting with somebody in reality. if I was in love with you and I'm afraid to say it because I'm like, I don't know if she loves me and I don't know if she'll say it back. Our relationship isn't actually real. I have a relationship with you in my head. You have a relationship with me in your head versus let's say what's true and find out what's real. And here's another example of this. And I think this is super common. And this is where I think relationships go wrong so often. And I'm just going to say it in black and white, but it's not always, it obviously operates in shades of gray. There's the cool girl problem. And the guy who thinks the cool girl is the greatest thing ever. So often women will play the role of like, I'm the cool girl when they start dating a guy. They're listening to like, they'll go watch the sports they don't care about with him. They'll listen to his music. They'll eat at the restaurants he wants to eat at. They laugh at his jokes. They're very much like, I want to be thought of as a cool girl. And part of this is just like society has created this dynamic. It's not like a woman's fault. It's just we want to be liked. We want to be accepted. And men traditionally have the power. And so women play this game. So guy girl starts dating, girls being the cool girl. Guy's like, man, I'm dating the coolest girl. She watches football with me. She does this, blah, blah, blah. He's bragging to all his friends. He thinks he's got it. Great, right? And when it comes to like relationships, women will say things like, oh, we'll just like see how it goes. We're just going with the flow. Guys like love that. There's no pressure for them. They're like so afraid of that. Then all of a sudden we're 6 months in and the woman is like, what's going on here? I don't have stuff at his house, or he's not really, I don't know if we're committed. Where is he going with this? I'm not really sure. Guy like thinks he's like loving it. He's got, he's has everything he wants and he doesn't have to commit to anything. And then, so the girl says something and the guy's like, wait, what? Or the girl suddenly is like, I don't want to go watch sports all the time or something. She suddenly speaks her truth. And it's like the rug got pulled out from under both of them because neither one of them was actually speaking their truth.
Yeah, it's really people pleasing 101.
Yep.
It's exactly what it is. It's telling someone something or acting in a certain way so that they will like you, and for potential also fear of rejection. But then you're not really being you, and you also can't believe that they love you for who you are because you've presented a manufactured version of yourself based on their likes. This is such a classic problem. And also I want to talk about the cool girl part, like the whole like, oh, I don't need a relationship, whatever. Like, yeah, I'm just playing it cool. You're going to end up in disappointment there, right? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That is such a false representation. It's leading. You know what I mean? It would be no different than someone saying they didn't want kids and they ultimately did.
Mm-hmm.
Sprung that on them. It's lying. It's straight up lying if you really look at it. And you got to almost look at it that way to stop doing it, because no one wants to be a fucking liar. Stop lying to people about your desires, right? This is about confidence, self-esteem. Just own it. Own what you're looking for. And as you get older, and this is why we're here, talking about this too, if you're much younger, then get a good start on this so that you don't have to go through all of this and you can learn a little bit more self-worth along the way. Yeah. I mean, I'm very like, I hate watching most sports. Okay. I love watching tennis. It's about the only one I love watching. And so that has come up over time, where then what happens is like back in the day, maybe I would just also not even people pleasing saying I liked it, but I went along with like, well, I'll just sit here all day and watch the shit. You know what? I don't have to. You can go do something else too. You can, right? But then some women feel like trapped in that codependent, like, well, I should be doing whatever they want to do. And if they want to do this on a weekend, you don't have to do that either. You can negotiate between things like that if someone is a huge sports fan and you're not. But to pretend that you like something, you were only going to simmer in resentment later, right? It's a backfiring move.
So bad, yeah. And you get to have independent lives. My fiance loves theater. I'm not opposed to it. I don't like hate it or anything. It's just not as enjoyable for me as it is for her.
Right.
So imagine if I had pretended, because like I liked her, that I had loved that. And then now she's like wanting us to go to theater and then it's like, wait, I didn't actually get into a relationship with a person who I knew the truth about. And I think this applies. I tell people when you're dating, on your first 2 to 3 dates, you should know, now for everyone, everything's different, but you should know what they want do they want to get married? Do they want to have kids? Like what's their definition of commitment? How do they view religion, politics, these like messy things that we get really triggered and sensitive by? Now, it doesn't have to be like the first moment of the first date, right? But the kind of music you like doesn't fucking matter.
No, that doesn't matter.
your favorite movie, it fucking doesn't matter. Now, those things can be fun, right? If we both like the same kind of movies or the same kind of music, but nobody was ever like, man, my relationship of 50 years worked because we both love the Beatles. It's never happened. Our relationship works because we're like, man, we both agree on that we would go to therapy if things got tough, right? Even that, like I coach couples right now that to get the guy, it's been the guy in these experiences to like work with me as a coach or to go to therapy is like pulling teeth. Whereas like with me and Evan, it's like, hey, what would happen if we got into a tough spot? We're both like, man, we'd hire a relationship coach or we go to therapy together. We know right off the back, we're committed to improvement and it's not like a mystery that we're going to discover this in 10 years, you know?
I love that you mentioned that about the first 3 dates. The way that I've presented it is on like second or third date or whenever, usually the second date, I'll say, hey, do you mind if I ask you some questions about your values and how you feel about politics and certain things like that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and usually they're like, yeah, no problem, you know, and then I'm like, all right, number one, how do you feel about X?
Yep.
You know, how do you feel about that? And also, too, I sometimes preface it just to in case, hopefully I'm not, you know, hopefully you're not on a date with a people pleaser and you have to preface this, but it's always great to be like, hey, just tell me honestly what you think, not what you think I want to hear. Like, I just want to get to know you. So if, you know, just be honest. And I would love to hear about this and that and the other, you know, and just, you don't even have to react to it. If it's insane, don't argue with it. You're getting the information. You can determine how you feel about that information later. But I agree with you. Get it out of the way first. You don't want to be 6 months in and be like, you believe what? You know what I mean? Because that is a fundamental thing. Now, you're not going to believe and agree on absolutely everything in life. But like you said, what are your fundamental deal breakers? And it's different for everyone, right? So maybe you don't care who people vote for. Maybe you care so much. Maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe there's nuances for you that you're okay with. So I think that that is so important that you mentioned it. Especially, again, if you're there for something that you want to have long-term compatibility and also to the hobbies thing. You know, listen, there's some people in my family who got married. They're like 80 now. But anyway, they got married. They had all the same activities and hobbies in common. Okay.
Yeah.
But they didn't get along. So they loved to ski. They loved to play that. They did all the shit. They loved to do all that, but that doesn't do it. And so, and then I've mentioned this example many years ago. I met someone online. This was like, literally like 15, 17 years ago. And, they told me all these things like, oh, I love to hike, all the stuff that I like, you know, of course they were just lying. Right. And so then we get into the relationship and they never wanted to go hiking and they never did this and they never saw them every day. And at the end of the relationship, I actually printed up the profile and I gave it to them and I said, hey, who's this guy? Who's this guy? I said, why did you say that you love to hike? Like you hate it, like legit hates it. Not even just doesn't mind it, like doesn't like it. And it was the most honest thing ever that he said, I told you those things because I thought that's what you wanted to hear in order to, for you to like me.
Yeah.
And that was like after 8 months and moving in, like I moved in on a lie of a person. And now again, I sure, hindsight, woulda, coulda, shoulda, I was whatever, you know, it was 17 years ago. But man, we've all been there. There's always room for improvement, but really you've got to detect the stuff and give time for this and really see, are these people living what they're saying, not the lip service that they're giving?
Yeah. Yep. And here, I think even if you disagree on these things, it's actually great because look, I'm not God of relationships, but if you can't work through disagreement and challenging moments, I don't care what you have in common and what works, you're not going to make it because something challenging is going to come up in your life that neither one of you could have asked or prepared for. So those challenging moments at the beginning that you actually say, oh, I want to, you know, the person says, I believe this. And you're like, oh, that's interesting. I believe the opposite. Let's talk about it. That teaches you how you're going to deal with those challenging disagreements in the future. And to me, that says more about if you're going to survive in a relationship is how do you deal with conflict? Because it's going to arise. So, you know, I think it's like, it creates so many, not only do you get to pick the person you're with based on the truth and they get to pick you, but you're also learning it like, hey, I can be with somebody that doesn't agree with me on everything because I know that we can work through stuff. because we're not both jerks or righteous or have to be right. Everyone's like wants to be right all the time. And, if you're right in your relationship, you're going to lose your relationship.
Yeah. Another thing, and then I want to move on to the topic of masculinity, but in terms of being upfront, one of the ways to completely avoid certain conflicts is the following. Look, nobody in the history of this ever wins when they're not prepped. And I'm talking about, what do you want for Valentine's Day? What do you want for Christmas? You know how many disappointed fucking Valentine's Day and disappointed in this, that, the other there's been because you never told the person what the fuck you wanted. And that is on you. So I started to preempt this.
So much easier.
I figured this out, and it's so much easier. And it's just that conversation of like, hey, and I prefaced it with the thing like, hey, look, the kind of things that fuck with people. And also, I don't want, guys don't get it sometimes about gifts and stuff like that. They're not like, you know what? Give the guy a chance, set him up to win, not to fail. I remember a boyfriend asked me one time, they were like, hey, should I make reservations for Valentine's Day? And I was like, oh my God, no, that's my nightmare. I never want to go out to dinner on Valentine's Day. Well, that's me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what do you want? Just go ahead and establish it. Don't wait until Christmas rolls around and go, oh, I hope this isn't going to be a fucking downer. Just tell them what you want, set them up. The guys love that too. They're like, oh my God, thank you. Thank you so much. Like, and then they get to win. Everyone gets to win. And maybe it's like you want to be surprised. Okay, then tell them like, hey, I kind of want to be surprised. I talked to one person and asked them this question once, and they said, I don't care about any holiday or whatever other than I want like a blowout for my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not me, Alex. I like to low-key that stuff. So, see, I wouldn't even think about someone even wanting that at this age. But like, hey, man, and I'm not judging it. It doesn't matter what age, but I just didn't think about like a huge birthday because I don't know. I just don't have them. So like, okay, good to know.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
so
there's also so many options, right? Hey, these are 5 things I'd love for you to get me. Right. Well, it's going to be a surprise which one. Maybe it'll be a surprise that they got you all 5.
Right.
I
love that. Prep everybody, set them up for success when it comes to touchy, triggery things like holidays, Valentine's Day, Christmas, whatever the thing is, and gifts, right? So I wouldn't want a purse from a guy, but like, you want to get me like a bunch of massages over at a spa? Yeah. There you go. That's right. But some people might not know that. You know what I mean? Yep. So again, just tell them what you want. Everyone's different, and don't let people try to be mind readers on anything. Let's get into this topic of masculinity. You do men's retreats. I guess let's just start it off. What do you mean masculinity? Why are we talking about it?
Well, I think it's important for us to talk about it because I think we're seeing a lot of, well, let me say this even differently. The world's changing. Every day the world's changing. This is a perfect example. You are a badass, powerful woman. You do not need my providing or protection. No, you might like that might be nice, but you do not need it. You are not under attack. You are not starving. You are very capable of handling those things for yourself in life. Now, hundreds of years ago, different time, different laws, different society, that necessarily wasn't the case. Right? Like men had a really clear role. And over time, like our society's shifted. I'm not giving an opinion whether it's good or bad or otherwise. I'm just saying it's happened. So now in this world, I think we're seeing, I don't know how much you read about this, but, men, the suicide rate, the depression rate, the loneliness rate, men don't want to work. And what I'm seeing is there's like these, there's a lot of men coming out that are like, no, men need to just be strong and powerful and you need to like dominate over women. And I started talking about masculinity because what I was hearing out in the world was like making me sick. It's like, no, we don't need to go backwards. I don't need to become more of a barbarian caveman. I need to evolve just as like women and everyone else has evolved. And what's gotten me really excited is that evolution is expansive. You as a woman now can be powerful and strong, and you can create things and you can make more money than many men do. I don't know if I said that right, but you can also be loving and kind and nurturing. And men have that same, this is like a moment in time where men have the same opportunity, that it's not about digging into what we've always been. This is an opportunity for us to become more. that men can be strong and grounded and powerful and focused and take action, but we can also be loving and kind and empathetic. And we can be the kind of dads that many of us wish we had had. We can be kind of the leaders that many of us wish we saw in the world. And so that's why I think this is important to talk about, because I think it's all of our responsibility. It's not just like some guy's job. It's men's job. It's women's job. It's mothers and fathers' jobs. It's brothers and sisters. It's bosses. And I think the result of it actually supports all of us. I'm able to be the man that I am with Evan because of that work. How many men would never have put themselves out there to create a contest and put it online because of way too vulnerable, way too open. I'm not going to let my friends pick for me. I'm not going to be the open to all the ridicule of what people may or may not say. And me opening up to surrender and creativity and allowing more feminine qualities allowed me to get what I actually really wanted.
I love that. I love the, talking about hunter-gatherer, ancestor, anything is obviously my jam. But what I love about it is, here's the thing. Some men need to get back to the primal perspective. You keep the primal perspective, which I'll talk about in a second, intact, out the dragging me into the cave part. Yeah. Right? So what does that mean? That means you make me feel safe. Okay. I mean, you're building me a lean-to in the fucking forest, but I still need that. And of course, I'm talking about the polarity of straight men, female, hetero right now. There's totally different dynamics elsewhere, right? But in what we know, what we're talking about right here, I feel that, and also, like you said, it's everyone's job. It's also my job. It's my job as an alpha female. If I want an alpha male, who I have, it's my job to allow that his protection, just that he soaks in my female, right? And then there's that polarity. There's so many authors who have spoken about that, but I can't sink into that if I'm an uncoached alpha, right? And the guy can't sink into it either if he's not coming a little bit forward the other way too, and being a little bit more available for emotions. And again, there's ways to communicate about this, of course, that will make it easier. But what I love is like the tender alpha, right? Again, it's the evolvement. It's like, you're still going to be that guy, and you're going to provide those things in this way that we needed in a primal way. We have not evolved DNA wise for 150,000 years. That shit's still in there. So it's like, if we just work around and kind of mitigate some of these things, then it's wonderful, because it's truly then in both of our natures, but we're allowing each other to be that. And I think that's what you're talking about here. And I think that's a good thing for men to see both sides of that, and to get back to the primal perspective, but don't be smashing beer can on your forehead. Dude. That's not alpha. That's just barbaric.
And safety is in a different context than it used to be.
That's right.
So,
it's not the protection from the woolly mammoth or whatever the hell. It's making me feel safe to be me, to communicate, right? And you continue.
Yeah, no, you literally I love that you just said it. The safety to be you and communicate. Whereas I hear this from from women about their men more than anything. And they don't always use these words, but these are I think the cleanest way to say it is, I can't feel him. You can't feel someone who doesn't communicate their emotions or can't connect with their emotions. That's what has us as human beings connect to each other, is our emotions. That's what has us have a human experience. If we take away our emotions, we're robots, because robots can be super productive. Robots can get things done. What make us human is that we feel things. Well, as the masculine and alpha of male and female, for the most part, has really pushed down their feelings and their emotions so they could be more hyper productive and more hyper kind of like action oriented. And that's the consequence of that is we're disconnected from each other. And so to me, this evolved masculine, he's still disciplined. He's still strong. He still can get shit done. But he can actually talk about what's going on, his internal experience. And you as his partner can go, oh my God, he's stressed. He's tired. He feels pressure. He's overwhelmed. He's exhausted. He's worried. He's scared sometimes. Maybe he's angry. Maybe he's sad. But that's how we actually connect to each other. And what I've been able to do with other people, and even in my own relationship, is there's nothing that makes you feel more safe than when you know where somebody's at with something. If you're dating someone and you have no idea what's happening in their emotional state, how can you feel safe? Because you have no idea how they're going to respond or react to anything or everything. So emotional intelligence, emotional evolution for men is the next level of having a woman or their partner feel safe with them. And I think that is getting men to see that is challenging. But also once they open up to it, it's like, oh my God, my relationship's also so much easier. And I have a real partner. I don't have to carry it all on my own. Also, I'm able to connect with guys in a way that for a lot of men, they haven't been able to connect to guys like that since they were kids.
Yeah. Having men need to connect with other men, especially if you are going through some growth stuff. It can be extra helpful to realize that they're just like you, you know?
Mm-hmm. And we, when I have guys together, all their shit's the same. Mm-hmm. They're all feel pressure, whether they make a lot of money or they make no money. They feel pressure about making money.
Of course. Yeah.
They feel pressure about status. They feel pressure about trying not to let people, their women, their company, whoever down. They feel often they hide all their anxiety, all their depression, all their struggle, because if they show that, they think it'll make them weak. So what happens when we push all that down? I mean, it actually does make us weak. It makes us sick. It makes us burn out. It makes us mentally unhealthy. And then when I'm with women and we talk about their men, they're just like, I just want to connect. Like, I just want more of him. And more of him doesn't mean more money, right? It doesn't mean like he's going to like look better. It doesn't mean he's going to provide. It usually means like, I want to like actually have intimacy.
Yeah. Quality time.
Mm-hmm. Quality connection, quality time, quality communication. And again, I think the people that run away with this are like, yeah, but if you don't have money, then it's like, we're not saying that, right? If I have clients that make millions of dollars, but their relationships were falling apart because they didn't know how to sit down and have a conversation with their partner. They just kept making more and more money, and it was just driving more and more of a wedge. Well, guess what? They don't make any less money now, but they actually have a relationship that works and they're happy. Now they get to actually have fun with all that money.
Absolutely. All right. As we're skating towards the end here, I want to talk about, first of all, everybody, and we'll put in the show notes all the links, but go to thedreammason.com. That's Alex's website. Tell us how people can work with you and gain even more wisdom from you.
I would love, I don't know, the men listening to this, the Alchemy of Men retreat, whether maybe you want to work with me one-on-one, that's always a possibility, but I am like fired up about our retreats right now. If you go to thedreammason.com, there's a tab, the Alchemy of Men. We have our next retreat in June. It's a men's retreat. It's on the top of a mountain in Utah on a 10,000 square foot, incredible cabin. So it's like you get luxury, but you also get nature and wilderness. And this retreat changes lives. It changes lives. It changes relationships. It changes friendships. It brings men together. And it's not my favorite thing.
I was going to say, forget the men listening. Hey, ladies, get your men over.
Yeah, no. Well, that's the second thing. Yeah. If you have a brother, a father, a child, a son, a partner, share this with them. And I'll say, I'm the first to say, I hate retreats. I created this because I was like, I'm creating a retreat for men who fucking hate retreats. So this is not a like, we're just going to like love each other the whole time. And this is not a, we're going to bury you under the sand with a rock on your stomach. This is all we do is create a space that you get to tell us the kind of man you want to be. And then we help you become that man, because who is anyone else to tell you what kind of man you should be? So it's really like I almost want to say like create your own adventure in a way. We're just creating a space where guys get to really get clear on, this is the kind of man I want to be. This is the kind of life I want to live. This is the kind of father I want to be. This kind of business I want to run. And this is the kind of legacy I want to live or lead or create. And then we support you with the community of men to create that for yourself. So men who come on this retreat vary in the kind of like in those answers, and they all get to leave with their own toolkit, with their own compass, with their own sense of purpose. And then we do this at like a lower barrier to entry, which we have men's groups. So we have some that are in person, and then we have some virtual. And then we're expanding that into other things for men. But those are the two places right now, the men's retreat and the men's groups. And then, yeah, if you're interested, I work with men and women on a one-on-one. And usually it's, alpha men and alpha women who are seeing that the alpha ways need to evolve also. We can't just keep doing it the way we've been doing it. We got to evolve. There's a new version of what alpha looks like, and it just looks different than the old
to me, it's
version.
the most positive connotation of it. Absolutely the most positive connotation, even though some people still attribute a negative one to the word alpha. And I think it's absolutely positive. When it's a coached alpha, that's like one of the greatest, you know what I mean? And here's the thing,
it's a leader.
You don't even have to be alpha. You can still be like a beta guy, a beta female, but you're still going to have to do the kind of inner work that we're talking about.
Yeah, to me, alpha just means like leader.
Yeah,
that's all it means. So it's, it's like a kind of a trendy word, but I think of it as, are you a leader? And it doesn't mean leading other people. It could just be that you're the leader of your own life. And that applies to men and women or people who don't subscribe to gender. It doesn't matter. Like, you want to be the leader of your life. And there's no one that can tell you how to do that. If you're listening to someone else, you can hear stuff from us and see what resonates. But if you're just like, oh, I need to do what Alex says, you're not a leader. You're not being an alpha or a leader. You are being it's a copy. So I think finding people who are not saying, hey, do it like I did it, but I might offer ideas, but I need to carve my own path, because that's the only way at the end of the day I'm going to be happy with the life I lived, is if I figured out what was right for me and I kind of drove that. I went that way.
I love it. Always amazing to speak with you. The DreamMason.com is his website. You also have a book coming out. You want to just touch on the title and a little bit about
you're in it.
I know. Well, I'm so excited. I was so flattered and honored. And yeah. So is Rob Mack, right?
Rob Mack is in there. There's a lot of amazing. I'm sure you've had even other people on. It's a compilation, I guess that's the word, of some of the best podcasts that I've recorded, and like the gems or the highlight from those guests put into book form with some of the people. I don't remember I think you did. Some of the people wrote additional content that's going to be in the book. Some of them, it has my thoughts on the different people, what I like what I learned from you and what I learned from different people. So it's kind of in my mind, it feels like a Cliff Notes of 100 of my favorite podcast episodes, that you kind of get the gold without having to go listen to 100 hours of, recordings.
I am so honored. And also to anyone listening, who knows and listens to me regularly, can just hear from hearing Alex over this hour that he's my type of people. So I just think you're amazing. I love the work that you're doing. We'll have to have you on again. I just love having these conversations. Also, check out Alex's podcast as well. Really fun. I've been on once, I'm coming on again. And just so excited about the work you're doing. Please always keep me posted of everything happening.
Thanks for having me on. I feel the same way. I love talking to you. It's so fun. I always feel like I'm getting such a genuine, authentic human when I'm connecting with you. And I think you don't get that everywhere. People are really put on a false thing. And I really feel like I get to experience the real you. So thanks for being that way.
Oh, thank you as well. Down to earth. All right. Thanks so much. And everyone else, we will see you next week. Hey, listeners. Over the years, a ton of companies have approached me to collaborate, but I will only promote companies whose products I believe in and that I actually use and consume on a regular basis. So let me tell you about some of my favorite companies that I can offer you discounts for. Rep Provisions, an amazing company doing incredible things for our planet, topsoil, and animals with regenerative agriculture, and it's my #1 source for quality pasture-raised meat and chicken. Visit repprovisions.com and use code L15 for 15% off. I'm also obsessed with a company called Carnivore Crisps. They make a lean, all-natural, and delicious alternative to conventional snacking, made with just real meat and real salt. Totally addictive, and my favorite ones are the beef brisket and the ribeye. Visit carnivorecrisps.com and use code PALEO10 for for 10% off. I also love and regularly use Paleo Valley products. They make amazing supplements and delicious paleo products. I use the superfood greens powder, grass-fed beef sticks, the organ complex, and their bone broth bars. I love the lemon and apple. I also use their essential C complex and more. Visit paleovalley.com/promos/Elle Russ for 15% off. I also love Primal Kitchen. They make delicious paleo-approved, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and no refined sugar products. And I use them daily, from their collagen powders and sauces and marinades to their avocado and olive oil. So good, so healthy. Visit primalkitchen.com and use code L10 for 10% off. I also love paleo powder and use it almost on everything I cook. They make incredible seasoning blends, and they also have these incredible grain-free coatings that feel just like crispy breadings that you would have had prior to knowing that there's another way. So visit paleopowder.com and use code L15 for 15% off.